out how people got into improv and their journey and things like that. And maybe if something comes up in the scene that might be fun to talk about, we'll do that too.
Sure.
Yay! And are you in Miami?
Yes.
What is the weather like there? Is it hot now?
It is usually hot and very humid. We've had rain the last couple days, so that's cooled it down some. That's been nice. But it's pretty much like if you are outside between the hours of 9 a.m. and 9 p.m.,
Forget it.
you're just going to sweat. Just sweat.
I grew up in Chicago, and so I've experienced many humid summers, and it just is like that feeling where you're going outside and then you have to take a shower again is just brutal.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep. Well, we will, let's see, I will give you the number. We're live. So
okay.
Pick a number between, let's see, 1 and 24.
12.
All right in the middle.
Yeah.
9, 10, 11, 12. Oh, this comes from Laxmi over in Bangalore, a wonderful improviser. The suggestion is titanium.
Ooh.
Titanium. Thanks, Lakshmi.
You're the only one here, Stuart. It's just me and you.
I'm a little nervous.
I know. I've reviewed your work.
Okay.
And your interpretation of modern art is unique.
Thank you. I mean, that's coming from you. That's a big compliment. No matter what follows, because I know there's going to be more after this, but just saying unique that's the biggest accomplishment of my career. So thank you.
Stuart.
Yeah.
I enjoyed your use of metal work in the creature's eyes and hands, but I want to see art that represents you.
That's you're asking for a level of vulnerability here.
I know, Stuart. This is why I'm a tenured professor.
I actually did bring a piece of art that I made that I'd be honored to show you, Professor, if and I think it represents who I am.
Well, please. I would love to see it.
Okay. It's just right out in my car. I just gotta go get it. And then,
They don't pay me enough for this. They really don't. Stuart.
I've got it.
Okay.
This is something I've worked on for 4 years during my time at university, and well, it represents some of the struggles I've been through, and who I am, and what it's led me to be, and what I believe as an artist.
Wow. I can see the pain of your childhood.
Yes. Yes.
The misunderstandings, the people who told you that You would never make it as an artist because they didn't see your vision. Stuart,
Yeah.
I haven't seen a project that moved me like this since the 70s.
I was too afraid to show you. I didn't, I guess I didn't know if you would see what I was wanting it to be, Professor.
And see, that's been your problem all along, Stuart. You've been afraid to show your true self. When you are authentic as an artist, that's when people are able to connect with you.
I, I have a, I have one more piece of art I'd love to show you and get your interpretation of.
Please, yes.
It's, it's the same thing. It represents who I am, and I just put it in the other room.
Okay.
I'm gonna
I, I guess living on campus does have its perks. It's so easy for students to just go and get the art from their dorm rooms right down the hall. Wow.
it just dried, as a matter of fact.
Yes. Yes.
It's man
I
versus.
know.
Okay, good. Why am I telling you? Why am I telling you how to interpret this?
This, Stuart, the pain coming out of that canvas is palpable. I am rarely at a loss for words, but wow. This is why I push you. This is what I've been wanting to see for the last 4 years. Not metal creatures, not cartoon reimaginings. This art that comes from the deepest, darkest pieces of you.
But how do I get past the fear? How do I get past the wanting to be accepted, wanting to be famous? How do I get past all of that and just create? Professor, that's the struggle I'm having right now. You don't seem to have that.
Oh, Stuart, we all have that.
You?
Of course.
But
You don't get past the desire to be liked. You just have to learn to work through it.
it seems terrifying.
It is. But it's worth it.
Professor, I'm not ready to graduate. I don't know if I can do it. I think I'm a fraud.
I know. We all have imposter syndrome. We're all afraid to jump out of the nest. Everyone, me, the other greats, but Stuart, only you can tell yourself that you're ready. I can't give you permission to leave. That's a choice that you have to make for yourself. Are you willing to be authentic with your art?
I want to be. I really do. I really want to be. I want to be. That's why I'm an artist, is I want to be authentic.
I can promise you this.
Yeah.
When you are, the right people will find you. You will be afraid as you step out into something new, but I promise your audience and your tribe will find you.
While I've got you here, can I ask you a question I've always wanted to ask?
Okay?
Were you ever afraid? Like truly afraid to show who you are, like truly afraid to show a piece of art, truly afraid to say, this is who I am? Were you ever really, truly afraid?
My interview here at the University of Pennsylvania, the first Black woman in the art department, deciding, should I show them my true portfolio or bring the things that I thought they wanted to see?
Yeah.
I stayed up all night. I couldn't decide. I chose the one I thought they wanted. But fate, destiny had something else in mind, because that's not the one I put into my car. And I was horrified. I was so upset. I'd brought the wrong portfolio, but it was the right one. They got it and they loved it. And I realized that I would have been doing a disservice to myself had I not been true to my art that day.
Yeah. You know, you get into it and you think it's so easy and it just comes, and then you start thinking, and then I want to please everyone, and I want to make art that my father appreciates, and I want him to say to me, you've done it, you've done something with your life. But I know he might never say that.
You represent a voice that needs to be heard. And if you are not true to what your heart tells you to create, you leave a gap in what the world needs.
I had been so afraid to come and to talk to you about this, because in my mind, I thought you were going to say what I'm doing is terrible, and even worse, what I was doing is ordinary.
The only thing ordinary and terrible is refusing to be honest with yourself.
Yeah. I don't know if I can ever repay you for what you've done for me.
Oh, Stuart, your $100,000 a year tuition repays me plenty.
Good point, Professor. Good point.
Yeah. I don't do this for free.
That's right. Well, thank you for your time. I really, truly, I cherish it.
Well, I'm just glad to be shaping the bright young artist who will be leading our field in the future.
I'll see myself out.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Scene. Oh, you are so fun to play with.
Thank you. Man, that got so real.
I was thinking like, oh, okay, well, we're going there.
Yeah.
I mean, but don't you find when you said imposter syndrome, it's like, don't you feel like any artist has that?
Yeah.
And that thing you said about like, do I want to show them what I think they want versus what I want? I mean, that struggle, I think, even the more you do it, it seems like it's still there. And you some days you feel like I'm doing my thing, and then some days you're like, well, I want to do the thing they want. Like, I feel like you're always going to have that, don't you?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, 100%. That is absolutely improv for me.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
feel like you're caught in between. I mean, I feel like we're always caught in between that, because you're like, okay, doing a move that you think is needed versus a move like you want to do. And I feel like when you're with people who get you, then you are doing more of the moves you want to do versus people who don't get you and then you're trying to fit in.
100%, especially starting an all Black improv team. I felt very much like, are other people going to get this? Will we be appealing to a broader audience? And really struggled with, do I need to do improv the way I've always done it? Or am I going to give myself the freedom to be a little blacker in this space?
Yeah, and in a space that is, I mean, that's, to be, you know, honestly, that shade, that spectrum is not as great as we need it to be. And so when you go there, also, it's like the audience is watching representations on stage, and it doesn't always represent who comes. And so pretty soon I feel like an audience will go, oh, well, that's great, but it's not necessarily for me because I'm not represented.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, I've had that experience going to shows myself, seeing nobody who looks like me in the entire building and thinking, okay, noted.
Yeah. And that part of finally stepping out and saying, I want to form a group and will it be accepted? Like, what kind of response did you get once you started doing shows? Like, could you tell the difference?
Yes. I mean, it's actually been really amazing. I felt like we were doing something much needed and much appreciated, and we've built more of a Black audience. But in the beginning, our audiences were mostly not Black at all.
Improv
Um,
audiences, right? Improv audiences.
yeah, exactly, exactly. But people have really loved and supported what we're doing, and it just affirmed that it's something the community needs. I mean, at the end of the day, we're just improvisers having a lot of fun together and maybe making some slightly different cultural references. We do some games a little bit of a different way. But I think that's part of what's great is people get tired of seeing the same games done by a different group with a different suggestion.
Yeah.
And we really make it a point of creating new games and taking classic games and saying, okay, but we're going to put our spin on this. And it's going to be something you still haven't seen before.
Which I think is like you're delivering to the audience. You're saying like, sit back, relax, we got this, and now you might have seen this game before, you might have seen an improv show before, but we're giving you what we think works from our point of view. And I think a lot of times groups want to kind of fit in because for a long time the theaters were the gatekeepers, so you kind of had to do their show, even no matter if they said like do different shows. It wasn't always the case. They're like, no, you have to do this one style of show, and so you had to fit into whatever that was.
Yes, we are Black Improv Alliance is the group I run and play with. We are blessed to be an indie team that's been really beautifully embraced by the community. So we've been invited to perform in spaces without having to conform to anybody's rules or formula, and just said, hey, come play, do whatever you want for 20 to 40 minutes. And we're like, cool.
Yes, which is how it should be, right? I mean, it should be where that's for me, my experience getting into improv is like you could do whatever you want. And then the more you take classes, the more you're told, well, not so much, not so much. And for you, it's got to be even, 10 times that of like, well, do it this way. And once you get to a point where it's like, wait, I don't have to get approval from someone, I feel like that just opens up to that experience and what we see.
Yes, 100%. I was talking to an improviser friend yesterday about the concept of yes and how it is such a fundamental building block of improv, but
Yes.
it does not necessarily always need to be.
Yes.
That can paralyze people when they're in a situation where something that should not be happening happens and they feel like, but I have to say yes. And we were just both expressing a real desire to empower people to say no when something happens that you should say no to.
I remember early on a teacher said to me, don't yes and evil. And like if we're setting each other up to and playing to the top of our intelligence, you aren't going to put people in a position to have to yes and. But there are times that I've heard people after a show, they got chewed out by the coach because the coach said you should have yes anded that thing, which was completely inappropriate. It's like, no. You don't have to yes and that, and you shouldn't be making offerings to people to yes and it. It's a foolish thing that like you said, you're trying to prove the value of yes and. It's like, no, that's you're going against the spirit of what it means.
100%. I think it's important to support the reality. So if someone comes on stage and is a horrible person, okay, I'm in the scene with you. You just said what you said.
Yes.
I acknowledge it. I heard it. It happened, but I don't have to agree with it.
Yes.
I'm just going to then pretend that we're in outer space and you didn't just say that thing.
Yes, exactly. And people talk about like conflict and things in scenes and like, why can't we do it? It's like they do it in TV and movie. It's like, well, but they've written the outcome. So when you're doing that horrible character, you need to get your comeuppance, and a lot of times we don't see that person lose, and we just see that. And people aren't. I don't think people also are skilled enough to do like commentary and satire to understand what the point of view is. So they make these sometimes also outrageous statements, or the worst thing I hear from any comedian is like, "Don't censor me." It's like, motherfucker, you're a sociopath. We have to censor ourselves. People who don't are sociopaths and don't fall under that, like, I should be able to do anything. It's like, no, you should look at this and go, there's enough room to play without having to do certain things. Like, let's not make you a martyr of this because I won't let you have these moments of doing something that's inappropriate.
Yes. Yes, 100,000%.
How did you get into improv? Like, what was your experience like?
So I dabbled a little bit in high school drama club.
I love it.
Um,
Dabbled.
yeah, I really got into it in my 3L year of law school at Georgetown. They had a yearly auction of items donated from the community with the money benefiting their social justice programs. It was a silent auction, and I went through and bid the minimum on everything that had no bids and was like, whatever, I get what I get. So I won an Improv 101 certificate with the Washington Improv Theater for like
Yeah.
$10 or $15 because nobody else bid. And I was just like, okay, I have it, so I guess I'll go. And it was just amazing after a day of reading hundreds of pages of case law to be in a room with a bunch of other adults like, yeah, we're cats. Like,
You're like,
so
I found my place.
yeah, I fell in love with it. And after that first class, it was like, all right, take all of my money and I'm yours now, never leaving.
And the theater's like, wait, a lawyer? All right, she's actually got money. It's not
Yeah,
one of the, oh, that's great. And so you just started like kind of taking classes, and then how long ago was that?
that was 11 years ago now.
Wow. So you've seen, and especially with happening now, you've seen the changes that are happening in those 11 years.
Yeah. So I did improv in DC for about a year. I've been in Miami for 10 years now. So most of my improv career has been here.
You're like, I love your winters, Washington, D.C. Later.
Yeah, something like that.
Did you grow up in the area in Washington, around there?
I wish. DC is my favorite city in the world. I went to undergrad there. I went to Howard University. But I grew up in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Okay. And are you doing a lot of like online teaching right now with classes and things like that? And how do you find that?
I'm doing all the online stuff and
Yes.
I love it. I love it so much.
Yes.
I've done a couple of workshops. I do a weekly show with the Black Improv Alliance. We were doing it as our core group. And over the last couple months, online improv has allowed us to connect with so many Black improvisers from around the country and around the world. So we recently just formed a new team called the International Players Club, which right now is all online. And we have improvisers from Baltimore, Minneapolis, Wisconsin, Canada, more, just all over. So that's been really amazing.
I mean, that's incredible. And you have had to hear from so many people who are just so grateful to now feel like, they can show off who they are and show their true selves. And like we talked about in the scene, and like this is who I am, and be vulnerable in a way that they probably weren't able to be vulnerable before.
It has been really special, I think, for everybody, including me. We built our little squad of 4. Our team is Wakanda versus everybody, but Black Improv Alliance is kind of the bigger umbrella of everything. But the first rehearsal we had with International Players Club, it was about 15 Black people, and it was the first time ever that I'd been in a group that size and had everyone know all the songs I sang for Hotspot. That was really special because it's happened with my, little group of my other 3 Black friends. But when I've gone to a workshop, been in a large class, and we play Hotspot, I already know that unless I stick to certain groups that are not my favorite, if I sing my songs, people are going to be mumbling and looking like, what is this?
Whole bunch of this.
Yes. There might be a couple people who know it, but it's not like Queen or
You're not feeling
Billy
the
Joel.
full support.
Exactly.
And I mean, that's why we do it, right? Is to feel like, and that's the thing is people go, got your back. And you're like, okay, show it. Don't say it to me. Show it. Got my back. And that's, wow, to have that feeling finally where you don't have to sing the songs. You're like, oh, I know they know another one bites the dust. But I could, and then you're probably taking more risk too to be like, let's see if you know this song and people know that song. And you're like, okay, so now your voice can be like, literally your voice can be heard now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I can sing Candy Rain and have everybody sing along.
I mean, that's the freedom now to be able to really to live up to the promise of improv of doing whatever you want and having people support you. Now it's got to be such a great feeling to actually know that that's true in that situation and not just like people trying or not knowing.
It's so true. Even certain characters I've thought about playing, I've had to stop myself in other groups because I'm like, wait a minute, if my scene partner comes out and matches my energy, we're going to have an argument. So let me not introduce this to a scene because other people may feel that it's permission for them to come out and play this character with me. And it's not.
Yeah. And that's, you know, it's not funny. What's interesting is you're having to edit yourself more against some of these motherfuckers who are like, don't edit me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, what a man. Like, and improv to me is about that joy and going like, let the spotlight be on you at times and then it passes around. But like, this is your moment. So what can I do to support your moment rather than what can I do to compete with your moment?
Yeah, absolutely.
If people want to take classes from you or they want to reach out to you, follow you on social media or follow shows or things like that, what's the best way they can do that?
So we post a ton of stuff on Facebook, facebook.com/Black Improv Alliance. We also have a recently launched, very fancy website. That is www.blackimprovalliance.com. We actually have a show at 5:30 EST today that's going to be streaming on Facebook Live.
Yes.
So, yeah.
I'm very excited that you said you'd play. I mean, I had no doubt you would, but like I've known you like through Facebook and followed you and the Black Improv Alliance, but like I was really excited when you're like, yeah, let's play. So thanks so much for taking time out and playing with me today.
Oh, thank you. I'm honored to be asked. I had a great time. This was a blast.
I can't wait to play with you, whether it's in person or virtually again.
Yes, for sure.
All right. Bye, Stephanie.
Bye.